In March of last year, a gentle 21-year-old man, much loved by his friends and family, walked out of a mental health facility at Waikato Hospital and into the Waikato River, where he drowned. He suffered from a sub-branch of schizophrenia. He was a risk to himself, and he was being treated following a suicide attempt. His family is still devastated by what happened. Nicky's death and other less serious episodes at the facility led to a formal inspection of Waikato Mental Health Services by the Director of Mental Health. Dr. John Crawshaw found services were well managed but facing considerable pressure. Some changes required were already in place or underway. But the family of Nicky Stevens, whose death they believe was entirely preventable, reject the report as a whitewash. I spoke to Nicky's father, Dave McPherson, and asked him about his meeting with the Director of Mental Health.
Well, look, I think it was a meeting for form's sake. He needed to do the decent thing and tell us what was in his report beforehand. We ended up talking quite a bit about Nicky's treatment, about the issues that arose from it, but he made no promises. And as you would see from the report, there's nothing specific in there other than 2 or 3 places it says Nicky's death was one of the reasons this report's been called for. Yet there's no coverage in there for us, which is intensely frustrating for us, John. He did say that things are heading in the right direction as far as he's concerned at Waikato DHB Mental Health Services. He said the cultures, that they're addressing the issues. And I mean, if I hadn't known what I knew about what happened to our son and all the other cases that we've heard about since then, I would think that everything was rosy there. But reading his report and knowing what I do know, I think he's on a different planet. It's just not how things happen with our son. It's not how things are happening with other families and other patients there, or I suspect other institutions like the Henry Bennett Centre elsewhere around the country.
Dave, Nicky was very much in the care of the DHB and the Henry Bennett Centre, and he was able simply to wander off. And the buck for that seems to stop with no one.
Absolutely. And look, not only stops with no one, they haven't even started looking at that officially. There's been not a single report yet or investigation that's been completed that actually looks at what did happen to Nicky. And that's one of the big problems for us. 13 months ago, our son died while in the legal care. We weren't given a choice over this, and Nicky wasn't given a choice over this. While in the legal care of the Waikato DHB, he was allowed outside, unsupervised for a smoke break. The CCTV video shows he was going backwards and forwards like he was trying to make up his mind what to do, and then he took off. We can see all of that, and no one's taken responsibility for that in 13 months. No one said sorry to us in 13 months.
No one has ever said sorry for the fact that Nicky was able to get away and as a direct result of that died.
No one has said sorry in that way. Only that they're sorry that we've had a loss. I'm sorry for your loss. Not I'm sorry that we contributed to your loss, or that we dropped the ball, or that anything like that. Nothing.
And I didn't realise, sorry Dave, until you said about a minute ago that Nicky was being held despite the wishes of the family. Is that the case?
Well, in the sense that it was a compulsory care order signed by a psychiatrist employed by the hospital that was done in the final instance without us even knowing he was in hospital after Nicky had tried to commit suicide and been taken to hospital. They signed him over to a compulsory inpatient care order, which neither Nicky or us were given any say over, and we had no knowledge about, and I suspect Nicky had no real knowledge about either at that point.
So in the context of the fact that he was compulsorily detained, kept, and was under treatment to prevent him from taking his life, the circumstances in which he died, now, how do you see all of this?
We warned them. Nicky tried to drown himself while he was in the hospital, unsuccessfully, came back with wet bandages and wet clothes and told us about it. It was recorded in his clinical notes in the hospital. We wrote to them saying, you must not let him out. He's going to do it again. And they ignored us in practice. They said, yeah, we'll stop him going out, and that wasn't passed on to the people that were in charge on the floor. And that culture, really, John, is sort of still there in the DHB. It's a sort of culture of the clinicians know best, and the family who know the person the best. In many cases, not every case, we're just treated as annoying sort of people that are making a bit of noise on the side, and we'll humour them with a meeting, but we'll go on with our job because we know what's best for them. We actually had the clinical director there say to us, "Trust us, we know what we're doing." Where have we heard that before?
Dave McPherson, who's Nikki Stevens' father. The report into Nikki's death, well, the report following Nikki's death really, was done by the Director of Mental Health, John Crawshaw. He says overall, the Waikato services were found to be well managed and led, but facing considerable pressure. He found frontline staff were disheartened, afraid to speak up, and had low morale. John Crawshaw said staff shortages needed to be fixed immediately, and a clear strategy to balance clinical management and patient rights needed to be created.